It's Peter Mead, and welcome to the Australian Search Marketing Academy, ASMA. So, made possible by Semrush. So, we're very excited today. Today is a huge topic. Today, Harry Saunders will be explaining all about Google algorithm updates. And just before I get into that, and before I welcome Harry, I just want to give a quick mention. We are on the Semrush channel, and of course, if you don't know yet, big news, big announcement. The Australian Search Awards will be on again at the Opera House on the 12th of November. So I'll just encourage everybody out there to make a submission. Last year was a huge success, and yeah, I'm just getting right behind the community to encourage everyone to make a submission. So let me introduce Harry Sanders. So Harry and I met a few years ago in Melbourne at the SEO meetup. And we always at the SEO meetup we love the community, and it's been so great having Harry in the community and seeing things come so far and so fast for Harry and his business Studio Hawk. They won so many awards, and including the Australian Search Awards last year. And the other thing I love about Harry is he calls me the SEO godfather.
He is. He's the godfather of SEO here.
So how are you, Harry? How's things? What's
doing well. Doing well, thanks, Peter. Just started up in the office, so here we are, and I'm pretty pumped to do this. Actually, I've been getting a lot of questions about the algorithm updates, how they work. I've been hit, and kind of keen to nip it in the bud all in one.
Terrific. So this is the other thing is I don't know. I just want to quickly mention a couple of things. There's so many articles I've seen getting around talking about a little bit about your history and your entrance into search marketing, and especially the rags to riches stories and this sort of thing. And did you? Also you're always very encouraging of people wanting to get into the industry. So I just want to thank you for that, and see if you want to say any more words about that as well.
Yeah, look, SEO has given me everything I have, quite literally. I came from nothing, and now I have this successful SEO agency here in Australia. We've got 14 SEO specialists, which is quite sizable in Australia. And I just want to say, anyone that is looking to get into it, it is probably one of the best industries you could be in at the moment. With big data becoming a thing, and with it becoming so easy to grasp and love SEO, it's a perfect mix of creativity and logic, and it's never been a better time to get in it. It's going to go through a bit of a golden age over the next 2 years. And if you can find a company that's going to let you in, we're hiring juniors, if there's any Australians out there, but anyone that you can kind of latch onto, people like Peter Mead that are phenomenal kind of role models, just get involved. No better time.
No, thanks for that, Harry. Yeah, we do love the community, and because it is based on that whole kind of sharing of ideas and sharing of information. And so, always terrific to see you at any of the meetups or any of the conferences. So without, let's just not hold off any longer. What's going on? Google algorithm updates. So what happened? I mean, years ago, we got hit. The first thing, SEOs were happily cruising along, building links and doing all kinds of directory submissions. And then all of a sudden, Penguin came along and started penalizing heaps of sites, big sites. Everyone started getting penalties. Then Panda came along. What's going on, Harry? Do you want to give us a rundown?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick rundown. So what is going on? I'll share my screen quickly here. There has been a lot of updates. And one of the questions I get asked a lot as a SEO person is, how do you keep up with all these updates? There's so many, and they keep rolling out. Quite literally, there's a new update, what feels like what is actually now every hour, every day. So how do you know what's going on, and how can you possibly keep up to date with this? So I'll give you a quick rundown of the history. So I'll start from here. Well, there was obviously Penguin, right? So you mentioned Penguin, and this is a bit of a brief look at the landscape, so I won't dwell on this too much, but Penguin was essentially an algorithm update that Google named. Now, this is important because Google don't name every algorithm update they do now. They call them Fred, and I'll go into that in a little bit. But Penguin was an update to the way we perceived backlinks, right? So instead of mass quantities, it became about quality and niche relevance and all those kind of things. And so a lot of websites took a hit from that. And there's heaps of reading you can do up about it. Really interesting topic. If you do have any questions, send them through. But
I had a
that
question.
shit up the landscape. Yeah, go, Peter.
Why do they call it Penguin?
Why do they call it Penguin?
It's a
They seem what was that?
a furry animal in a very cold place.
Correct. They have panda and penguin. I like to think it's called penguin because it was very slippery, dicey for a lot of people. But a few people, treaded very carefully when it came to penguin, and they still do, because while it was originally one core update, it is now a rolling update. And when I say a rolling update, it happens every day now, right? So Google updates their index. Usually it used to be yearly or biannually, whereas now it is, a constant rolling update. Just as they check for on-site issues, they check for Penguin and backlink related activities as well. So that's become interesting. So instead of getting slammed when an algorithm update comes out, it is more kind of, you see it gradually dip, or sometimes you do see yourself get slammed, but it is that more rolling kind of format, which is interesting, I think, at least. And then, of course, they rolled out into Panda, and Panda was about low quality, thin content. So that's a lot of people were creating websites for the sake of having just really low quality content. This is a lot of infographics. And not that there's anything wrong with infographics, but people would just have an infographic and then get people to link to them. And that fell apart, unfortunately, just because it wasn't really the content Google was searching for. It was definitely a great linkable asset, but an infographic without any accompanying information or content, unfortunately, had a lot of issues. And a lot of websites, even now, still take a hit from Panda-related activities. So definitely to be aware of.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Seeing a lot of sites, seen heaps of sites get hit by that, by Panda. But again, another cute animal, and there was actually one office I worked in, and they went and got a huge big panda mask because it's just so. Yeah, I mean, it was such a big deal. Panda came out and just swiped out every site. Yeah.
Yeah, well, then there was Pigeon and Payday, but they're probably outside the scope of this, but still, and Hummingbird, of course, actually. So a lot of it seems to be the birds and the fluffy animals. So I don't know what's going on there.
I'm waiting for a platypus. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Where's the platypus update? But so that's kind of they're two of the big ones. To cover off a couple of small ones, or not smaller ones, but relatively. There was the mobile Geddon, which is about the mobile indexing, the mobile websites. This makes a lot more sense. Everything went to mobile. Google started putting mobile first indexing, and I'll explain a little bit more about each of these in a moment and how you can expect to see them evolve, which is what I suspect a lot of people are interested in, more than just a history lesson. But it's important to first cover them off. So mobile Geddon, obviously the mobile indexing update and the mobile websites, everyone saw massive changes when Google rolled that out. So interesting times. And then lastly, Fred, or what is called Fred. So the current trend of algorithm updates isn't named, other than your penguins, which are rolling updates. Currently, updates aren't named. There's just so many coming out. Semrush sometimes has unofficial names, or Search Engine Land, or Journal, but Google officially call them Fred, right? So any update, unless otherwise stated, shall be called Fred, was kind of unofficially said, and now is kind of how it works. So you just say it was a Fred update, which can be really confusing.
That was a really interesting thread on Twitter, that one. It's like, what's going on with the latest update? It's called Fred.
Yeah. And then next one, what's the latest update? Yeah, it's called Fred.
Gary's Ilias. Yeah, you want to call it Fred? Let's call it Fred.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much exactly what happened. So now people are really confused because we call a lot of them Fred, and they say, "What is this Fred? When did Fred happen?" Well, Fred happened first occurred here, but it's kind of like a rolling update, so don't get too caught up in it. But it is, good to cover off, so that because Fred is really, it's part of EAT, it's part of all those kind of things that are emerging. So I'll go back into some of these slides and I'll talk about the future of algorithm updates and why you might have been affected, other than just covering off the basics. This is really the future of SEO. And look, it is the past and the future. So it is, it's always been there. But what's becoming more and more clear to SEO specialists or SEO people is that there's really three pillars that really hold up search engines. And I'm for the purpose of this, I'm not including local. It's a separate thing, and a separate thing completely to try and rank in local rather than the national results. But that's a separate conversation there. But there's three pillars of kind of national organic search results, and those at a very fundamental level are very simple. Right, it's very simple to make a website rank. You've just got to do the three pillars, right? But in practice, that's where it becomes quite difficult. So there's technical on-site, which is how crawlable, how issue-free, the user-friendly website structure. Peter, you would know all about the silo structure, fixing any technical issues, security, certificates, all those kind of things fall under technical on-site, right? So broken links, anything that you might find in a Semrush site audit is covered off under that pillar. And that pillar is very important and definitely something that you should always be doing, because that's one of the easier, well, not always, but one of the relatively ways you can sink your teeth into fixing your website, getting it to rank well. And there's all sorts of documentation about that. And again, I'll talk about that in a bit more detail, but that's technical on site. That's the first pillar. The second is offsite. So I know backlinks is heavily debated and still, a lot of fights are caused over them. But if you look at Brian Dean and Backlinko and all these studies emerging, and it is quite clear, it doesn't matter how you look at it, backlinks still work. They still happen. They still work. They're still going to continue to happen. The way that we've thought about them has certainly changed. If you're a very, person that's been in the industry a long time, backlinks used to be something you acquired in quantity, right? It was all about how many backlinks you're going to get. So you might ask your SEO, how many backlinks will you get me? What has changed and why we've had to change our thinking is because it's become more about quality and the niche relevant of those backlinks. So make sure they're coming from quality, credible domains, which follow the EAT principle, which I'll go into. Make sure they're niche relevant. So if you're a plumber, you have to get links from, plumbing websites or blogs or trade blogs, those kind of things. You can't be getting random weird blogs from, some foreign gambling site. It doesn't work.
What about hairdresser sites?
Yeah, if you're a plumber, you don't want links from hairdressers. That's for sure.
Probably not.
Probably not. So you want them to be niche relevant so that they make sense. And the consistent links as well. If you're just doing one burst of links and you're thinking, yep, I've done my website SEO, you're going to find that really doesn't work. And you're going to find over the coming months, your SEO just kind of drops and drops and drops.
It's a flag, right?
It is, correct. It's because Google see that spike. Even if they are quality and niche relevant, if they're not consistent, Google says, well, that's funny. Maybe they just did a PR push, or maybe there was something else. Why aren't they coming in consistently? So also something to consider. But they're the three kind of things we really look at when we're talking about offsite.
So quality and relevancy is so important. And so quality, relevant. So what are we trying to avoid making a footprint, or do we just go out and naturally get good links and not worry about footprints?
I try and just go out and naturally try and acquire them using, techniques like the skyscraper or the moving man, or, guest posts still work here and there, but you have to be very selective. You can't just, guest posts where you just kind of are going just for any kind of website that has a post or something isn't going to work anymore. It needs to be much more niche relevant than that, which makes it a lot more difficult than a lot of people have imagined to do good offsite SEO. Hence why there's a lot of backlash and pushback on doing it because, well, as you can imagine, it's really hard without the networks or kind of relationships with people to acquire these links. But it is one of the reasons why you would hire an SEO person. So I still think it's very important and still certainly one of those three pillars. I mean, if you think about it, offsite SEO, right, Google wasn't the first search engine. There were many search engines, and that being said, Google was one of the first, if I believe the first, to implement the concept of offsite. And that was when, did you know this story, Peter, when Larry and Sergey were in the library at Harvard?
Yeah, the page, Larry Page, and the whole idea of PageRank,
Correct. Yeah. So,
and it was so that was. I mean, and even though they took away the toolbar PageRank, we believe that it still is PageRank that's operating behind the scenes
correct.
in some form.
They just don't make it public. But yeah, so that's basically the story. And Larry and Sergi were in the library in Harvard, and they were thinking, well, okay, how do we know which are good, credible research papers? And they said, well, we know they're credible because they have a lot of citations from other books and other works. So a really credible piece of research is going to have sources and citations from other research papers. So I said, what if we applied that concept to the web rather than just focusing on technical SEO or technical onsite, which everyone else was doing? They said, what if we do offsite SEO, the concept of other references making you the most credible? And so that's what they did. And obviously that's evolved. It's not just about quantity now, it's about the quality, but that is how Google started out. And I don't think that that's going to go away any soon, as much as a lot of people would like it to.
Yeah. So yeah, what you're saying, this whole idea of the library and the sources and the citations. Can I, while we're just on this, I mean, I hate to sort of get bogged down too much just in links. We're talking offsite, and you're really talking about algorithm here. But there has been a question here. Robin Davis, he says, has backlink thinking been changed by Google, going from DA to EAT, adding the trust and expertise as a question?
That's a really good question, actually. I'll cover that off quickly. I'll talk about it in a bit as well. But EAT, so EAT, for people that aren't familiar, is expertise, authority, trust, which is a new kind of signal that Google's looking at when determining where to place websites in the search results, right? It's a very, very important thing. When Google announces something like this, it is going to be a big thing. So quickly, expertise is the user an industry expert? Do they have a blog? Are they contributing information? Are they kind of, an expert in their field, right? Like you might say Studio Hook is an SEO agency. They have a blog. They do a lot of stuff around SEO in the community. We would deem them to fulfill the E in EAT because they have the expertise. The A is that authority. How well are they known in the space? You can have expertise, but not a lot of authority. So that authority is, Studio Hook won the Semrush Awards and they won Marketing Innovation Awards. All these kind of things are authority pieces, right? So they back up our expertise and bring authority. So that's where that authority comes in. The T stands for trust or trustworthiness, and that's for how credible is this as a source of information. This is really relevant for news sites or even sites that are about diet or definitely finance as well. How trustworthy is this content? Is it real? Is it fake? Is it using clickbaited kind of articles? You would notice if you follow BuzzFeed's SEO, they took massive dips when EAT was officially kind of rolled out. They took many because a lot of their titles are very clickbaity. And a lot of BuzzFeed actually tried to go through and change their titles as a result of the T in EAT. So I thought that was really interesting to see how a company like that handles it. But that's what we're talking about. Now, the question does Google look at EAT when trying to... I think it's a firm yes. I think they look at the niche relevancy, the expertise, the authoritative, and the trust of all these kind of links. Why wouldn't they? If they've got us as a metric for a site, they may as well use it as a backlink signal. And I think Semrush, from when we spoke to them, Peter, in Portugal, they were doing a lot of work around this in their AS score that they've created, their authority score, which is a good idea and a good understanding of this. We have, as an agency, moved more away from DA. Obviously, a lot of people still use it, and there's DR and AS, and there's a lot of different metrics now, but it is difficult. But I do certainly think that they are using EAT when determining backlinks.
So that's it does make a lot of sense. But I know that all of the most recent Google algorithm updates that I've seen come out, they do seem to be hitting the spammy links pretty hard.
Very high.
mostly that's the common factor. The sites that have got links are the ones that are the sites that have got spammy links are getting hit. So, but you touched on when we were in Portugal with Semrush. We were working in the workshop with them, and you and I were talking about this whole thing, and and they were asking us questions about how can the SEMrush tool find a quality score that is meaningful, that actually helps us to really get a good metric for understanding what is good quality. Traditionally, obviously, people have been using DA, and people do still use DA because what else better is there at the moment? So I'll be interested to see where this all goes. Especially with the EAT factor coming in the future.
Yeah, certainly. I think it will be a really good indication. I mean, we're seeing it practically as an agency across, the 200 odd clients we're doing. We see this all the time, this EAT signal becoming a big thing. We see a lot of our clients become winners because they've got strong backlinks. We've been working with them for a long time. And we've seen a lot of clients that have come from agencies taking a hit because of their backlink profile, and it needs to be built back up properly with strong, credible backlinks. And that is going to be a difficult thing, because especially with the emergence of things like I won't name any, but backlink kind of networks where you can go to websites and kind of buy them. It's just people are really going to start feeling it if this is that's their only way of acquiring links. It's really going to hurt.
So Harry, on the previous slide, I just had a question about that. We're going back, are we? Oh, yeah, the search intent. I missed a bit there.
Yeah, so sorry, going back to the previous slide, the third pillar, so I think we've covered off offsite well and truly, is search intent. Now, this is where we talk about content, and we talk about making sure that we're monitoring the performance, making sure that we're matching up the search intent with the content, right? Or with the website. Now, you can have as good technical SEO as you want and as good backlinks as you would like, but if you're a plumber, you're never going to rank for financial services, right? Because you don't have search intent, which is the third pillar. Now, search intent is about making sure that, you've got your three kinds of searches, which is educational, transactional, or navigational, but making sure that when someone searches for something, your website's satisfying that search intent. So, for example, if you're looking for a plumber, you're coming back with a plumbing website to hire. But if you're looking for how to fix a tap, you're obviously looking for an informational source rather than necessarily a transactional search where you're looking to buy something. It's the same pretty much across the field. You want to make sure that you're matching up good content that you're producing with informational searches, because they often lead to transactional searches. Or making sure that even when people are searching for transactional searches, you've matched up your pages with what people want to see, in order so that when they come to your website, they actually want to use it. Because if they bounce back, Google's going to look at that like, well, you haven't fulfilled the search intent.
Yeah.
So
search intent.
That's it. So that's really the three pillars, right? SEO can really be boiled down quite straightforwardly to these three things. If you have an issue somewhere, it's an issue with one of these three pillars, which helps, I think, a lot with newer people to the space, or even experienced vets, figuring out what's gone wrong, because there's so many different factors, so many different things it could be. It's kind of like, start with what category it's in. Is it an offsite issue? Is it a search intent issue? Is it a technical problem? Where is it? And then you can kind of drill down further from there.
Yeah, right. Three pillars. I love this, Harry.
Three pillars.
Three pillars. Yeah, I have often spoken about in the past. Many SEOs have talked about, on-site SEO and off-site SEO. It's the old kind of bread and butter. But I totally agree. There's a third pillar, which absolutely people need to be thinking of just as importantly as the on-site and the off-site. Can I ask a question here? I've got another question here. So John Naylor, hey John, how are you? So John says, hey guys, great confirmation of what we are seeing. We have some sites at the top of their space with zero backlinks. Does that invalidate the backlinks question?
That's a really good, I really like that question actually, because it kind of helps me cover off something that I would have otherwise forgot to cover off. You can rank for something by only doing one of these, right? You can do really good technical SEO and rank. You can do really good offsite SEO and rank, and you can do really good search intent and rank. However, you're going to find that because you're only doing one of the three or two of the three, it's going to get more difficult. In a less competitive space, you could get away doing technical on-site and search intent and rank strong. If there's search volume or little search volume and low competition, you can certainly do very well. What you will find, however, is if you don't have any quality backlinks, you can have the best technical on-site you want and the best search intent you want. But if you're going for a really competitive keyword like gambling, or really competitive ones like head injury or legal services, anything like that, you're going to
Yeah.
really struggle without those offsite backlinks. So on one hand, you can do quite well with the two pillars, just like you can do well with kind of offsite and search intent. But poor onsite, you can do really well with technical onsite and search intent. But the more pillars you cover off, the higher you're going to rank. And while you may be there now, if someone comes along, ticks the on-site and the search intent, but then also acquires some quality backlinks, I guarantee you'll be displaced behind that unless you can acquire those off-site links yourself as well.
Yeah, so that's a great way of putting it. What I would also say to John is have a think about how competitive is that niche that he's looking at. He's saying he's seeing some sites at the top of the space with zero backlinks. Perhaps I'd be looking at like using a tool like Semrush and dropping those websites in just to see how competitive it is and who are the competitors in those spaces. Because that might help to solve part of the I guess the riddle of how competitive is it, and why are they winning with sort of zero backlinks?
Sure.
It can be a bit of a quandary sometimes. So what else we got? What else we got? Yeah. So what's happening, Harry?
Let's start talking about the future. Yeah, let's start talking about the future. So I had to cover off kind of what's going on and what are the standstill historical data before I can really talk about
the
what's
three
going
pillars.
on.
I love this three pillars.
So the three pillars, and we covered off the offsite, covered off kind of EAT, what that means. EAT is really the direction that Google wants to take. They haven't been so subtle about it. They've said, this is what we want to do, and this is what we're going to do. So we now, as SEO people, need to figure out how we can demonstrate expertise for our clients, how we can demonstrate that authority, and how we can demonstrate that trust, right? That is really what they're going to be looking at. So there's a couple other things, we've talked about backlinks, but when we talk about things like that expertise, authority, trust, it also leaves out a couple of things that you might otherwise be looking at. And Peter, you'd be very familiar with URL consolidation. And while this technically falls under the pillar of technical SEO, it does it's becoming quite a big thing. And I've seen personally, firsthand, a ton of clients being hit by this lately. The amount of crawled URLs. Now, what's happened is Google have in the background enabled their mobile index, and that's been going on for a few months now, and it's very exciting for them to have a mobile index and a desktop index, which is really a first for Google. Previously, they had separate index, or the same index, just different prioritization. Now they've gone, what, scrap it, we're going to do a whole new one just for mobile, which is really exciting. Now, what's happened and what's occurred as part of that is one of Google's biggest expenses is their crawls, right? They have to crawl billions, probably trillions of URLs, right? And that is very taxing on their servers. Now, they used to have to do that twice. They used to have to do that from user agent Googlebot and one from a mystery shopper. Now they have to do that 4 times. One from Googlebot on a desktop, one from a mystery shopper on a desktop, one from mobile Googlebot, one from mystery shopper mobile on Google. Now, for any business people out there, you're going to realize that's doubled their expenses, right? That's a very expensive exercise. If you look at the Google bug that happened recently, most of the people that were affected by that bug were people with big indexes, similar to kind of Panda, where maybe some thin content or not a lot of backlinks supporting or propping up those pages. So this URL consolidation is so interesting because the websites that are cutting back and being smarter with their use of canonicals or robots are the ones that are doing really well. So I've seen so many practical examples of this, and this really only affects massive e-commerce or big websites, but it is something that we're seeing emerge and something that's going to happen in the future.
Okay. So what are you talking about? Duplicated URLs? Are you talking about like messy URLs, or are you just talking about are you talking about articles or maybe products that are disused that are still live, that kind of thing? I mean, or all of
Yeah,
the above? What are we saying?
bit of all of the above, but mostly the second part of that, where products that aren't used, zombie pages, articles that are just no one listens or reads anymore, and
Yeah,
there are some of these massive websites have so many pages or so much content that are simply not used.
yeah,
All their search results are being indexed, all their everything's being indexed, and you might look at a site, and it's so easy to do this. You can do a site query where you do something like something as simple as this. Site, studio.com.au, and it comes back with all the pages that are indexed as part of that. It's such a simple hack to see how many URLs are being indexed, because you might go, okay, well, Studio Hawk's got about 12 pages or so, or including blogs. I actually don't know. Let's call it 40. If I look at the search results for that query and I see hundreds, I'm going to think, oh wow, something's wrong with my URL consolidation.
yeah.
Google is going to all this effort to crawl my site when there's such a bloated amount of URLs, which is really hurting. So I'm seeing that happen for some massive sites, Peter, some astronomically large sites that are losing a lot of traffic on our enterprise level because they've just got so many URLs that they're not using.
Okay, Harry, you've got a huge site. You're a big company, and I mean you've got tens of thousands of products.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got millions of web pages, millions of URLs. It's tough because I mean, how do you make a sensible decision about how to disallow, stop Google from crawling or indexing, hundreds of thousands of pages, and which ones are you going to stop? So there's a lot of work involved in that, right?
There is heaps of work, but there are handy tools. Semrush have got a tool to go through and look at the URLs and prioritize them by how much authority they kind of have or perceive to have, which allows you to trim the ones at the very bottom. Because you'll find that the 80-20 rule exists in SEO as well. So 20% of your pages bring in 80% of your traffic, right? Which is a very weird thing to think about. It applies in most things in life, but definitely in SEO. So you have to go, okay, well, what are those 20% of pages that are bringing in 80% of my traffic? How can I nourish those pages the best? And how can I find which are part of that 80% that are bringing in the remaining 20% of traffic, and which of those can I prune? Because that's going to help strengthen your 20%, which is going to bring you more traffic. So it's an interesting concept. But yeah, you go through Google Analytics and your Semrush to trim those URLs that aren't used so much. And I'm telling you now, put my head on a guillotine, you will see good results come from it.
Some other tools as well I might throw in: Google Search Console, also Streaming Frog, the old
Streaming Frog, great one,
but yeah, there is I mean absolutely on a day-to-day basis you want to have an automatic setup for Semrush to be crawling, or some other auditing tool on a regular basis to be just running regular crawls all the time. So because you don't want this stuff to come out of the blue and hit you without you knowing that it's coming. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. Maybe I'll jump into those before going.
Let's go.
So so here we go. RB says, would you be able to dive into a little more about SEO versus local SEO and explain the shift towards local? I'm not sure. Should we perhaps save that question until later, because right now we're talking in the middle of the
national. Yeah, we definitely cover that a bit later. Yeah, we'll talk about pigeon in a bit.
Yeah, we'll save that pigeon one for a bit later. And then Dom Mims says, how much authority do social links and Facebook pages posts really convey for the algo scores these days? Is there any
Oh,
or is there some, or does it really make a difference?
this is a really good one. I think I'm probably very well equipped to answer this question right now, given that over the past 2 days we've had a ridiculous amount of social media coverage, as well as historically a lot of articles about us. And I will
Yeah.
tell you now, we saw very little to no uplift of the social coverage compared to what we saw in the article coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually,
Mm-hmm.
we're actually doing a full case study on this right now. You heard it here first. So we're doing a full case study and a deep dive into a white paper as to the importance of those social links. The TLDR is, while social links definitely help your authority, they don't seem to build up your page rank or your
Yeah.
actual website a lot. However, articles, like we got a link from Forbes, and it was just a no follow. As well as a few from a big publication here called Smart Company, and they
Mm-hmm.
did massive wonders to our SEO. It went nuts. We're ranking for, I think, number 6 at some point for SEO in Australia, just below the Moz Guide. So,
Mm.
yeah, those kind of things, they do definitely help a lot more. I would say that undeniably.
Well, it comes back to the whole thing. If you can create the link yourself, then what's the point? I mean, Google knows this.
Correct.
You can just
Yeah.
jump onto this website and create your own link back to your own site. So, I
Yep.
mean, this is why I believe the whole thing with the most recent algorithm updates, it's really I've seen PBNs getting hit.
Big
And
time.
this is why I still believe that any link that you can just jump online and create yourself within your own network, it's going to come to an end sooner or later.
I firmly believe that, Peter, as well. If you're, I still know some, I think we both know some really good black hat dudes that we've met and seen and spoken to behind closed doors. And while they do have very interesting and technical techniques, even it feels like speaking to them that they're at the point where they're ready to throw in the towel and they're saying it's easier at this point to, I'm not saying that black hat doesn't work, but it is easier at this point to acquire links reputably than it is to go to all the effort to acquire them irreputably or against Google's guidelines.
You got to put the work in somewhere, right? So,
Correct.
so one more question before we go on to the next slide. Joanne B, she says, what would be the best practice to treat those URLs that are considered rigid? This is going back to your question about the URLs.
Yeah.
What's the best practice? Do you just cull them? Do you no index them? Do
Mm.
you block them from the crawler? What do you do?
It is a good one. I make sure when I'm looking at URLs, I do a few different things. I make sure they, firstly, have a proper structure in place, the silo structure. Peter talks a lot about this, but make sure that they make sense where they are. They're layered. So not just from the homepage down, but they have meaning to them. And that's very important to go, okay, this is the homepage, then this is this category page, and then this is this subcategory, and that's where this sits, right? Rather than just, if you're looking at a massive e-commerce, just link to the product from
Mm.
the original URL. And that's very important. So that's the first step. Make sure that URLs are very human readable. Do they make sense? Do they contain numbers, numerical things that just don't make any sense? Because that's also a factor. Make sure they're human readable. Thirdly, in terms of culling them, any search results I generally try to cull because they bloat your URLs so much. I try to make sure that search results are no index as best as I can, and that there's other ways to get the products rather than just searching for them, because that's a poor structured website in that case, as well as making sure that when I am culling these URLs, I'm making sure to look at analytics or tools like Screaming Frog and Semrush to make sure that they aren't sleeper pages, like not like sleeper. I mean, as in they're massive. I just didn't realize. So all those kind of things, and that's kind of
Okay.
series we go through to check those links.
Okay. All right, Harry. Let's keep going.
Let's
Let's
press on.
um, let's press on. Let's find out what's going on now with backlinks.
Let's go. Let's go to
You would know.
backlinks. So,
You go to backlinks. Okay. Do you want to?
so
Do you want to?
yeah,
Hit the presentation button. Just click that.
yeah, good idea. So
Yeah.
I'll just quickly cover these off because I think we
Okay.
have covered backlinks a
We've
lot.
talked. We've
But
talked a lot already. Let's
we've
keep
talked a
going.
lot about backlinks. So it is those things about make sure they're niche relevant, they have that authority, and don't be doing PBNs and those kind of things. Make sure you're trying to make them as natural as possible. You should have relationships or reach out to an SEO person that does have relationships. or understands a skyscraper or moving man techniques. They're definitely prerequisites now for anyone that we bring on.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to on-site issues, I wanted to cover off some of the evolution of these and how they've changed, right? So I still get questions about each and everything here, and I want to
Yep.
give a final verdict on them. Image alt tags, yes, they're suggested. I would not recommend going through your 20,000 web page website and adding image alt tags for every single image. If
Mm-hmm.
image search is very important for you, of course, make sure you have image alt tags. And if, for example, you're looking at, your big product page or that 20% of pages that are bringing 80% of your traffic, maybe have a look at those. But if your SEO person is recommend going through 40,000 images and adding alt tags, you will be wasting your time. I guarantee there are other things that you could be spending that time on and optimizing.
Yeah.
So similar with the meta description, a lot of people are, it used to be that you would always have a meta description that is fetched by what you provided. Most of the time, if you look at your meta description now, Google fetches it automatically based on content on the page. Your meta description should not be where you put in all your keywords. Your title is where you still need to be focused on keywords and driving that. But your meta description is largely what's on the page. It's just making sure that when the user finds your listing in the SERPs, they want to click through and it makes sense. But don't worry about putting your keywords in there a heap. It's just not how it works. Same with the URL keywords. I still, to this day, get people going, I'm going to buy this URL because it's got my keyword in it. That's not how it works anymore. Don't be doing that. You're wanting to build up that EAT. And these are kind of things in the algorithm that are always going to happen, right? This is just going to evolve and change. Same with keyword stuffing. We talk about content, we talk about topics now, or we don't, but we should talk about topics now. And related LSIs, which is where Google is going. They're not talking about specific keywords. They're talking about topics or clusters of keywords that form those topics. That's where you should be focusing that time, and the latent semantic indexing that's going into it is in that topic optimization rather than keyword optimization. So that's another direction.
Really?
So yeah, absolutely. We're seeing heaps of that where instead of keywords, it's becoming more about topics. Like if you talk about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, it is about cryptocurrency and making sure you're referring to those different things rather than just jamming in Bitcoin everywhere.
It needs to be naturally written in a way where it describes all of the related words, right? I mean,
absolutely.
you want to call them keywords, you can call them that. But what we're talking about. So what are we doing in terms of images? Like I heard you saying, don't worry about the not so much. I mean, with images, but I mean, what about it's possible. Just saw Barry Schwartz yesterday making a post saying that if you're using an image as a link, then Google may use the alt text as your anchor text, or in a similar kind of a way.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would think you could probably, maybe if you've got lots of images on your site that you're using as links, then why not have them make sure you get the alt? That could be one way of prioritizing. Make sure you get the alt text working on those, and any other kind of important images that are you want those images they're important. But if you've got all kinds of images just as a part of your web design, that sort of thing, it's kind of a waste of time worrying about those.
100%. Yeah, if they're just part of the website, if they're linking externally or internally, I would 100% be thinking about that image alt tag. Same as if they're on a really important product or a really important page for you. If they're just on a page that is not bringing in a lot of traffic or is not a priority for you, wouldn't worry about them. It is one of those things where it is very high effort, low reward. When I guarantee you, if you look through some of the other items, you'll find something more obvious.
All right, Harry, what do we got next? What do we have to think about?
I've covered off a few different things. I've talked about the past, I've talked about the search pillars, and I've talked about some of the things, and I've covered off bits and pieces of the future. But really, where is search going? What is Google trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? And that's the big question. That's the $1,000,000 or $1 billion question. What is Google trying to accomplish? Well, Google's trying to accomplish what it's always been trying to accomplish. If we talk about a very high level to start with, Google is trying to provide the best answer for a query. The way that's happening is changing. We have voice becoming a new mean that people are getting educational searches on. Not yet so much transactional, but certainly educational. People are looking for information around that. We have the knowledge graph becoming more and more
Mm.
present. We have the local graph changing its appearance, and going back to that question, how is that local SEO thing going? It is part of
Oh
it.
yeah,
It's how Google perceives that local pack, and the local results are always going to be based on mostly your reviews,
yeah.
categories, and your kind of those kind of items, and your proximity, obviously. But
Harry, is it
it's a very important thing.
Harry? Is it a good time for me now to reread that question
Yeah,
from
go
RB?
for it. Let's go for
I'll
it.
just
Yeah.
because we didn't answer it before, but so RB said, would you be able to dive into a little more about SEO versus local SEO and explain the shift towards local question mark?
Yep. Google is trying to answer users' queries in the best way they think possible. A lot of the time, they deem that to be local. You're looking for a
Mm,
plumber, a handyman, even an SEO specialist, they will bring up the local
mm,
search results because people generally want someone nearby or someone convenient to them.
mm.
So that's becoming a big thing, and how it's working is changing as well. It used to be that reviews, the quality or the quantity of reviews was a massive signal. Sorry. What is really
Yeah.
interesting is there's a lot of studies coming out that's saying it's the quality of reviews that are more of a signal. And what one of our team, my GM Jacob, did, he did a case study on this, I think about 6 months ago. And what he found was the actual words you use in the Google reviews is is part of the ranking factor,
Yeah.
right? So if you say this was a great or fantastic service, it's not the stars that you give it, whether it's 4 or 5 stars, it's the words you use to describe it that are the
Yeah.
quality signal. So if you say it was terrible or atrocious, all those kind of descriptions,
Yeah.
you're actually going to that's what's going to affect your ranking rather than the
Well,
stars.
and also if they're using keywords
Correct.
in the
Yep.
review, they're actually mentioning your brand name or mentioning the name of your product or your service.
Yep, absolutely. It's almost like backlinks in which each reviewer is not created equal. There's quality behind the reviewer. If someone's created
Mhm.
140 reviews and is a local guide, their review is going to be worth much more than someone that's only ever left one review. So it is very interesting that it is evolving to the more quality rather than quantity, just like backlinks.
Okay. So, okay, well, that answers RB's question.
So
So,
what's
what next, Harry? Well, I mean, what are we going to do? Things are
what are we going to
changing. Voice is coming. Knowledge graph. We've got EAT. We've got the YMYL websites.
do? Yeah.
All these things are a big deal.
Yeah, what are we going to do, Peter? What are we going to do? Well,
Yes.
search is changing, and how we perceive SEO is also changing. While you have people like Neil Patel that talk about content, there are a lot of different factors to SEO, and each of them is evolving. Brian Dean might be sprouting stuff about backlinks, and there's no shortage of things about technical SEO, especially by people like Barry Schwartz. But what's
Mm,
happening is those three pillars you'll notice are starting to converge more and more and more. And so what we've got to focus on as SEO people is how are we satisfying each of those pillars and how are we applying principles like EAT to our websites.
mm,
Um,
mm,
to give you a example, we've been doing a lot of SEO on our website recently, and historically, it's not something we've ever done, but we've done it because of some tests we're doing around the EAT kind of methodology, EAT systems. Um, and I have to tell you, Peter, it has been remarkable what I've seen. I've been in SEO for 8 years, and I've seen a lot of the changes to how I perceive things or how I would have previously thought things worked after doing it for ourselves based on this new EAT methodology. Of course, the pillars are still very important. We covered off the on-site, the off-site, and the search intent. But I am seeing, the amount of stuff we're putting out around the expertise and the stuff, the awards we're winning on the authority side and the trust side we're doing. Our rankings have gone ridiculous, Peter. We've
mm.
20 x'd our traffic in the 6 months we've been doing this.
Right.
Uh, And all it has been about is getting awards, making sure they're on our website, making sure we're getting links back from those awards. So that's a massive shout out to the Semrush Awards. If you want to be seen as a SEO specialist or a PPC or someone in the digital marketing space, you need to be winning awards. And there's no better one than the Semrush Awards here in Australia.
Yeah.
So definitely something to get involved in. That expertise
Mm.
is how often are you putting out those blog posts? How comprehensive are those blog posts? Are they topics you want to share? And that trust, of course, is do you have kind of validation, community validation as well? Like, we obviously involved in that SEO meetup and a lot of
Mm.
other initiatives, and that helps build our trustworthiness. And if you pull up our Semrush profile in Australia, you go to studio.com.au and you pull up Australia as the country, you will see what effect that's had. And it's, you can kind of follow it along and see what we've
Mm.
done. And I can tell you what we've done. All we've done is good on site, good search intent. We've acquired a few quality backlinks. We haven't focused on
Mm.
all of the quantity, and we've matched the heat. And our traffic's gone nuts. And we're about to roll
Okay.
this same process out to all our clients because that's where I really see search going.
Okay, that's a lot, Harry. You're giving us all the secrets right here.
That's it. This is what we're doing.
Um,
We're seeing
so,
phenomenal.
so a couple of things I picked up, which I'd like to drill into a
Yeah,
bit more. I've for a long time, I've often thought that less backlinks but higher quality backlinks are the way to go, right? So, but maybe talk me through that a little bit because I heard you mention that as well.
yeah,
Um, you're saying you've cleaned up your site, you've done all your on-site SEO, and then you're working on your EAT, but you're getting just a few good quality links.
yeah.
What would you be able to talk me through that a little bit more, especially around the links? Because I mean, did you buy them or did you
Incredible.
how did you get these really good quality links?
Yeah, so I'll give you. So when we first started out, we tried to do some decent quality links. I'd say low to medium kind of stuff. We had relationships with, and we went outbound and got a few of those as kind of sponsored kind of postings and links, and
Mm.
didn't really see had an increase certainly, but not something that really moved the needle for us as a brand.
Mm.
So changing tactic a bit, we started to go, okay, well, how can we build that authority? Right. So we talk about domain authority and all those things, but how can we build an actual business authority?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we started going out to outbound. We started doing skyscraper and we started
Yep.
doing outbound press kind of work where we'd reach out to people and talk about, we talked about Smart Company, about the story of the company, how we got
Okay.
involved, how we got started. And once we started having those links, just a couple of those, Forbes, Smart Company,
Mm.
traffic went nuts, right?
Okay.
So that's where we really started seeing that
Okay. So
kind of
you can't fake those kind of links, right?
no, it's really hard. Yeah, you can certainly build um, backlinks without having those heavy hitting publications, and it will certainly increase your traffic. But if you
Mm.
really want to see a boost to your authority, you're going to need those articles. They're
Mm.
just like they're nuts, Peter. It's like shooting a cannon.
Okay, a howitzer. We're going to uh, we're going to fire off the strategy, eh? And
That's it.
so, Harry, I've got a couple more questions. Do you have more to say? Because I do have some more questions for you.
Look, I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
in a TLDR. We've seen a lot of more manual kind of process behind the Google updates historically,
Mm.
Penguin, Panda, Pigeon, all those kind of things. Now we're seeing more rolling updates. What I think the future is, and what we're really seeing our clients get affected by, is now we're ushering in a new dawn where SEO really is about the EAT principle. Of course, we've got our pillars, which will always be the most important. You can't do anything without them. But by following
Mm.
this methodology, and that's what Google's really trying to get us to do, stop thinking about metrics so much as we are thinking about how do we perceive this business as an important, credible business. And that's where we look at those EAT kind of
Okay.
methodologies.
Terrific. So here's a couple of questions. We know lots of people got hit by a June 3rd update. And it's also, I saw a lot of sites get hit as well from August 1st. And I mean, maybe not hasn't been so much noise about it as the June 3, but I mean, look, this is all recent. I mean, so Google definitely, I believe, is getting tougher every time they're doing an update, a Google algorithm update. What do we do? How do we stay on top of this? Should we sign up for notifications? I mean, you've just explained everything to do to be prepared so you don't get hit. But
If you've
if
already been hit.
somebody's site does get hit, how do we recover? I mean, do we just have to? I mean, if you listen to Google's advice, they say do nothing. Nothing's wrong.
Yeah,
You've been hit, but nothing's wrong, and you shouldn't do anything, nothing to change. But we know that's not good enough for businesses who need that business. They need that traffic. So, who do they listen to? Do they go get advice from people or what?
That's a very loaded question, but yeah, look, Google will they will hit you. They will come through, and an algorithm update will inevitably hit each and every single person at one stage in their business. Even if you are following everything to a T, there might be some straggler or something that's going to come around. So what do you do? What do you do when you get hit by a search update? First of all, I like to start off again going to those three pillars. I run through each and every one of them. Have I fulfilled the nature of each pillar here? Have I got impeccable technical SEO? Have I got very quality niche relevant backlinks? And am I meeting the search intent? If I'm searching for the things, has the search intent changed? Is it no longer, SEO is an educational search, but it's now transactional search? Am I meeting that new search intent? Those kind of things are very important. Then obviously you want to look at more, that's a great place to start. But then, okay, well, I just got hit by an update and I've lost a lot of traffic. Okay, first thing I'm going to check is my backlinks. Backlinks seem to be the flavor of the past year. Everyone's getting hit by things because historically, we've done things a little bit differently and our backlinks have been maybe not so clean as they are now. And so a lot of people are feeling that. So the first place to check is your backlinks. Pull up Semrush's backlink tool or Ahrefs' backlink tool and just go through and see, okay, how credible are my backlinks? Do I have real traffic coming through them? Not just metrics. Do I have real traffic? If I pull up that domain in Semrush, am I going to see real traffic from this domain? If you're going through your backlink list and you're not seeing any real traffic, you got a problem. How do you fix it? You get good, proper backlinks which do have real traffic. And it's not about this talk's not about how to acquire backlinks, but you can look at the skyscraper technique and the moving man and those kind of methods, and they will help a lot. But you do have to put in work. Unfortunately, backlinks aren't super easy to acquire. But that is where I check and start, and then obviously flow on from there to the technical SEO. Do I have ridiculous URL issues? Are my permalinks not working? Do I have some new issue that's popped up on my website? Review schema is something that I see a lot. A lot of people are implementing all this schema on their site and getting penalized for it because they're not using
too much. Overusing. So the answer is to look deeper, learn more, look deeper, dig deeper, find out where things are going wrong. Have a look where you could be over optimizing, all these kinds of things, but also learn more, right? Keep learning.
Correct. Keep learning. You can't stop learning, Peter.
You don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, if you don't know that you've now over optimized all of your schema on your site because you think that putting lots of schema on there is a great idea. So we need to keep learning, right?
Absolutely. SEO is all about learning. If you're in SEO and you're thinking, I don't want to learn anymore, probably time to exit SEO. And part of that learning is getting involved with, things like community meetups. There's always one nearby in your city, or in Australia, there's really strong meetup presence. And this is where you pick people's brains on issues and how are things changing and what are people doing. And you'll have agency owners like us that have 200 odd campaigns all doing different things, and it gives very practical advice and understanding to what's going on, because you can read as much as you want, but until you've seen it, it's a very different story.
Harry, we are out of time, and I think you have given us so much today. I think we'll be going away and digesting this for quite a while. I'll be thinking about everything you said. Thank you so much. How do people stay in contact with you? Is it the best channel for people to follow?
Yeah,
You?
sure. So we've got our website, which is studiohawk.com.au. We're really active on that. You send an email or something. Otherwise, get in touch over my Facebook, Harry Sanders SEO, all those kind of things. We're not so active on Twitter, to be honest, but Facebook or the website is probably the best place to get in touch.
Okay. Thanks so much. Next month, everybody, we have Brodie Clark, who's going to be joining us, talking about auditing, in particular with WordPress. So Brodie's very well experienced, another great local Australian SEO. So also, please don't forget the Australian Search Awards on the 12th of November. Get your submissions in. This is a great initiative for the community. It's done wonders since the 12 months since last year when this happened. We've seen the community grow in all kinds of ways. And so definitely get them happening. Thanks again, Harry. And thanks, everybody, for being involved. Thanks, Semrush, for allowing us to do the Australian webinar. And we'll see everyone soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure, Peter.